We were talking about this offline before, but I've been looking at some of the recent news articles which show there's a massive resurgence in Christianity in Western culture. I think they were saying it was from 2018 to 2024, particularly with young adults and young men.
Yeah.
What's your
Especially
opinion on this?
Yeah, it's really interesting, isn't it? I mean, it's like they call it a quiet revival. I don't think it's very quiet. It's quite obvious. But, you know, I've been to various festivals and events this year and speaking to various friends and partners in the space. And it's incredible what's happening. I think what I think has happened, I'm not saying I'm right, but I think that's very much based on what I can see around me, is there was a lot of, you know, there was many, call it revival, many amazing movements in the 50 after the war, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. And I think what's happened over the years was that this element of revival being a relationship, being a faith you live out, not something you just read in a book, turned more and more into a book you just read and have to follow. And I think it took the element of reality away. I think that's what I see. And I think, so, and it took basically religion. I think religion is dead, and it's something, you know, you read and do. I say, people say, "Oh, Karlo, you're so religious," and I was like, I'm not religious at all, because religion is something you do because you feel you have to, whereas faith is something you live out and because you believe it. It's two completely different things. So I don't do anything in my faith because I have to. No one forces me. No one's standing behind me, beating me up, like including God. And like it's purely out of the reality that I live in. And I think that's a big difference. I think what's happening is with these youth, they're sick of society. They've tried everything. I mean, you know, we've all tried all sorts of things, and it's always just leaves you empty. I think that's one element. You know, you can try as much as you want, no matter how famous you get, how much money. I know a lot of people from ultra wealthy to ultra poor and everything in between. And the one thing that I always say is they try everything, and it always leaves them needing more. You know, and I've always get inspired by words of Jesus said, I've come to give you life and life in the full. And I think that's one thing that I've never been able to get anywhere else. Temporary life, yeah, sure. Temporary pleasure, sure. Temporary happiness, absolutely. You know, but long term, no. And I think a lot of youth are realizing that they've tried everything because that's the kind of society we live in. You know, do whatever you want, say whatever you want, be whatever you want, as long as you're not hurting anyone, you know, that's cool. And I think they've all tried all that and they're like, it's empty and it's pretty dead. And I think they're like, there needs to be something more. And I think my crazy experiences, right, is that anyone who comes to faith in this society, and you can tell me if you know someone else, has never come to faith because they felt forced or because they had to do it. Especially now, 2025, I mean, maybe 50, 60 years ago when the parents said go to church or whatever, you know, whatever. But I think this society is very much, the reason is because I experienced God in a Christian context, not in some whatever context, but actually like the reality. And I think that's one thing I would say to anyone is like, there's a difference between following something blindly and following something because you know the reality of something. And I've experienced the reality over and over and over and over again. And you can't lie about it, you know. And end of the day, I think it's the good news after all. Gospel's been good news, and it's good news. You know, there's good news. It changed my life for sure. I mean, I wasn't someone who was in prison for 10 years and was a drug addict for 15, you know. But many of my friends and people I know were. And you know, what else can change like that? Like, call it coincidence? Call it no. But you once you see too many coincidences, you start wondering, like, maybe there's more to that than just a coincidence. And I think that's what I see in this society is no one coming to faith. Young people, I know a lot of young people. I was just helping with youth in this previous festival I was at, and they all come to Jesus purely based on an experience with God, with a power, call it whatever you want, a higher being that fits the criteria of the Bible. And I think that's just speaks for itself. No one's forced them. And I'm like, wow. And they're on fire. They're not like, oh, you know, fake, or they're real. You know, they're on fire. They don't care what people think. And that's just what I'm seeing. And I'm standing back, I'm like, that's inspiring. That's real.
And so what do you mean by experience?
Yeah, I think experience means a change in your circumstances, change in your life, something that you know is real. And whatever that is, that can be a feeling, that can be something physical, that can be a change in circumstance. You know, I know so many crazy stories. I mean, stories of addiction, for example, where someone was addicted, one of my good friends was addicted to meth for 15 years, tried everything, therapy, you know, doctors, you know, all sorts of retreats. never worked. And then it literally went to church one day and encountered God, and literally within an instant he was freed from that addiction. Never went back to meth. I explain that. I mean, and you can say, look, if it was happening somewhere randomly with some sort of random circumstance, maybe, but it was at church while he was praying for help, So it's always very specific. And I think it's like, and if it's through miracles or things I see daily, I mean, I see so much of this stuff, and because I'm kind of open to it, but I think I would never say to anyone, just believe it for the sake of it. Like, if you don't get it in your head and you don't feel it in your heart, don't follow it. Like, I'm a rationalist. I'm very black and white. Like,
German.
I'm very German. Yeah. I don't follow things because it wants to make me feel better. I was like, I need a crutch to make my life feel. No, I don't need that. I'm fine. I would only follow something if it makes sense and it's consistent. And this is the conclusion I've come to, alongside millions of others, of course, and not just by myself. But it's based on reality. And
so that's really interesting, because a lot of like the, criticisms or observations of this time with like woke culture is that it's quite feeling led. Yeah. But what you're seeing is that people are coming searching for truth and reality. Yeah. And they're finding that in faith. Yeah. Yeah. Woke culture is interesting, isn't it? It's like, if you look back over the last, like, even a couple of years, right? It's like, it feels like it's evolving, ever evolving, and there's new sort of ways of thinking and rules and like obligations and ways of thinking and doing, and you just never know where it's going to go. It just goes into all sorts of random concepts, and you sit there and you're like, have we got that far? Like, we're literally at this point now. And it does blow my mind. I'm like, wow, this is where have we landed? And then you look back and say, why are we doing this? Or why are we saying this? So, I see that a lot, and I think that's why now people are like coming to their senses a bit. I'm like, do we really want to go into this direction, or is it more based on reality and other values, instead of just an ideology that everyone just makes up as they go along? It's like a bit like, do your own truth, and we end up have all these random concepts you follow, and you're like, well, it's a bit lost, it's a bit empty. So I think I've definitely seen the woke side of things. Yeah. Because working in fashion entertainment, obviously, is some stuff I'm like, wow. But I think it's just, at the end of the day, it's just quite empty. And I always say, look, whatever you do, if it fulfills you, if it makes you a better person, if it builds you, if you gain value from it, great, go for it. But if it doesn't, then why are you doing it?